G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/Entitled Now if you love this content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy the content. Posted by user 1SL1KK1, titled, Crazy Lady Accuses Me of Kidnapping My Stepson, Tries to Kidnap Him from Me. So this happened about a week ago, and I honestly am still fuming from this. I'm not sure if this belongs in this subreddit, but here goes. First, a little backstory. I'm a mixed ethnicity individual. I've been confused for many races over the course of my 29 years on this planet, but I'm literally Caucasian and African American. Usually it can be figured out, but the difference with me is my father is the Caucasian, so therefore my hair is straight. I'm originally from Texas and am usually confused for being Mexican, but now I live in Massachusetts and have never had an issue with anyone concerning my race. Until this day. Also, I'm married to a Caucasian woman who had a child before we were married. His father is not in his life as much, and I took the responsibility because I love this woman, and I love this little boy as if he were my own. He's 4 now, and I've been in his life since he was 1. Anyways, on to the story. My wife needed a few things from the grocery store, and she needed to run a few more errands, and usually she just goes and knocks things out herself because I'm asleep. I work nights. But this particular day, I happened to be awake, and I offered to go for her. She works hard and does a lot, so I definitely felt it was necessary to do something for her so she could just relax for the day. I took my son with me so she could rest up and just take it easy, and it gave me time to spend with my son for some bonding. We completed all of the errands, which went smoothly, and then we headed to the grocery store to finish up our day. My son, being a typical 4-year-old, was full of energy, running ahead of me, laughing, and speaking to everyone he comes across, which I generally don't mind as long as he doesn't hit anyone and stays within eye view. As I'm making my way down an aisle looking for canned corn, my son jogs to the end of it, when an older lady is entering at the other end. My son, being the sweet social butterfly he is, approached and exclaims an excited, "Hi, me 4 and me Ryan." Bless his little heart. The lady looked down and says, "Well, hello there. You shouldn't be running around unattended. Let's go find your parents." I don't think anything of her statements because I assumed she just hadn't seen me. "Ryan, come back here, bud, please." He excitedly runs back towards me and starts turning in circles because, he's 4, lol. I'm still searching the shelves as the lady walks past me and stops behind me. Again, I think nothing of it because it's a grocery store and you have to share the aisles. I turn my basket around and start to walk towards the front cash registers when this lady literally blocks my path. I say, "Excuse me," and try to walk around her, and she moves her cart in front of me again. I honestly thought she was just getting confused and said "excuse me" once again and tried one more time to go around, and she just blocks my path. The following convo ensues. Sorry about that, we'll get out of your way." "Oh, I don't think so. You're not going anywhere with that child." "You mean my son?" "That's not your child. He's white and you're Mexican. You probably didn't even know his name until he said it to me." "Sure, whatever lady, can you just move? My wife is at home and anxiously waiting for us." "Stop your lies. You're not taking him anywhere, you pervert." This whole time, my son is standing close to me holding my leg because he was honestly getting scared. I was getting angry because I hadn't had much sleep, and I have a short fuse anyway. "Thanks, Dad." I say, "As you can see, he's standing close to me because he trusts me, and you're scaring him. So how about you buzz off?" "No, he's scared because of you. He just doesn't know how to express it yet." She looks at my son. "Come on now, sweetie. I'm here to rescue you. Come with me." Thankfully, my son was able to communicate to her he wasn't going anywhere with her, but she was having none of it. She literally grabbed my son and began to run. It caught me off guard because I honestly could not fathom what was actually happening. My son starts screaming loudly because he was so scared, and this lady is just like, "Don't worry, sweetie, he won't hurt you, I promise." Suddenly, I snap back into reality, and I begin to chase after this crazy wench. While running through the store, I yell for people to stop her and that she's kidnapping my son. And thankfully, a worker stops her before she makes the exit. "Why are you stopping me? This Mexican here is trying to kidnap my grandson." My son is literally bawling his eyes out and extending his arms out, calling for me. This lady was relentless and would not let go of my son even after he slaps her face multiple times. I laughed a little, I'm not gonna lie. At this point, a manager shows up and asks what's going on. The lady spoke before me. This, pointing at me, pervert, is trying to kidnap my grandson and I was just trying to escape. That's my son, you freaking psycho, now let him go. The manager didn't know what to believe. I don't blame him. He was caught in a weird situation. So I pulled out my phone and showed him pictures of me and my son that dated a year or so back as proof. This lady still would not give up and accused me of faking them. Like, how would you do that exactly? I'll never know, but whatever. Sadly, there were two other ladies there taking the psycho's side and said I was attempting to kidnap my own son because there was no way we were family because of our different skin tones. One even called the police, which I was actually happy about because I knew they'd be able to review the security cameras. Even still, I called my wife to see if she could come to the store to get this situation cleared up quicker. As soon as I told her what was going on, she zoomed to the store. She got there about the same time as the police. The crazy ladies were giving their statements to the cops when my wife walked in. As soon as she walked in, my son goes, "Mama, help!" My wife is a true mama bear, and she immediately flew into a rage when she saw this lady holding my son. "Let go of him now!" "Sorry, sweetie, I was just trying to protect him from this pervert over here. Yeah, we saw him trying to kidnap him, but this lady saved him." The cop looks at the lady and is confused. "I thought this was your grandson." "Oh, I have no idea who that lady is." She takes out her phone and shows the officer a picture of my mother-in-law. "Okay, I'm sorry he's not my grandson, but I was only trying to protect him from this dirty pervert over here." "Yeah, I witnessed the whole thing. He snatched that child and tried to run away with him, but this lady stopped it." "Yeah, I saw it too. He needs to be arrested. And you," pointing to my wife, "should be thankful that this lady was here to save your son, because you obviously just let him loose wherever." "Who are you talking about again?" All three crazy ladies pointed at me. "Oh, you mean my husband?" "Husband? Yeah, who do you think called me and got me here so fast?" I presented my ID to the officer and the manager, and my wife did the same. We also each showed us pictures of us on our phones to prove we were really a family. The cop nodded in approval and handed us our phones back and jotted down a few notes. The three ladies for some reason still kept trying to say this is all fake, and my wife was in on the kidnapping and said we needed to be arrested. My wife lost it at this point and let off some colourful words. I won't repeat here, but she definitely got her point across. Then the nail in the coffin came from the psycho trio. The officer turns to the manager and asks, "Sir, did the cameras work here?" "Yes, we have them inside and out." "Okay, great, let's go review." The three ladies' faces went pale, like ghostly pale. The officer reviewed the outside camera as I pulled into the parking lot and saw me take my son out of the car, and then as I went up and down the aisles, and most importantly, the instance when the woman snatched up my son and began to run. Upon his return, he asks, "Would you like to press charges?" And Lady 1 says, "Yes, I would." "Why would I be asking you that question? Shut your mouth and sit down." He turns to me and repeats the question, and I say, "Absolutely." Lady 1 was charged with attempted kidnapping, false imprisonment, providing a false police report, and child endangerment. The other two were also charged with providing a false police report as well. To make matters worse for Lady 1, my son bruises easily, and she left some terrible spots on him from where she was grasping him. But he's fine. This added a charge of child abuse to her rap sheet. I have court later this year, but I'm not sure when because of COVID. The officer will be following up with me in a few weeks. Sorry for the length. Posted by user Sayonite, titled, "Entitled teacher calls CPS on me because I refuse to talk to her about my mum." Long-time lurker here. I have dealt with my fair share of entitled people, both in school and at work, and have so many stories to tell, but this one I remember so vividly. I'm also not a native English speaker, so mistakes may be made. For context, my mum was in and out of the hospital when I was around 10 to 13 years old because of bipolar disorder, and by the time this all went down, when I was 15, my mum was doing better, home, and she was even working. So, in my final year of secondary school, one of my teachers began pulling me out of class in the middle of lessons, and at first, She just wanted to chat about my grades, which were average. But then she started asking more and more intrusive questions about my mum and her illness, and began to compare my mother's illness to her mother, who apparently had suffered from the same thing, and began telling me sob stories about her childhood. She also began asking me uncomfortable questions about my home life. I didn't say much, just sat there feeling very confused about it all. This happened over the course of 3 months, and eventually I got really sick of her pulling me out of the classroom in the middle of lessons, and I snapped. I told her to stop pulling me out of classes and leave me the hell alone. I turned to leave and go back to class. She grabs me by the arm and tells me that if I continue to withhold information, she would have to call the CPS. I told her to call them. They wouldn't find anything and she'd be wasting their time. A few days later, I get called out of the classroom, not by her, but by my principal, who takes me to her office where a CPS worker, my mum, and my dad is waiting. I realized I already knew the woman. She had been at our house sometimes while my mum was ill. The CPS worker, my parents and I talked, and she came to the conclusion that everything was fine, but I broke down in tears because the whole situation had been really stressful. My parents were ticked. They demanded to know why the hell this teacher thought it was okay to harass me about something that was none of her business. We never got a proper answer, and the teacher refused to say anything. She stared daggers at me though. The CPS lady was angry about having her time wasted and demanded some type of action from the principal. The teacher was not allowed to be in the room alone with me anymore, and under no circumstance to take me out of classroom alone. Eventually, she was moved to another class, and later let go for harassment and assault of another student. By the way, I didn't tell my parents because I was a dumb kid, thinking I was the one who would get in trouble about it. Posted by user EagleEye295, titled, Karen throws a small wine rack on the ground because I ordered it. Hello Reddit, I'm Belgian, so if I make any mistakes, I'm sorry. A little context first. Every year on the second Sunday of June, it's Father's Day. For Father's Day, I ordered and paid for a small wine rack with 6 wines in it online. So on to the story. Names are changed, obviously. Characters are Karen, the 40-year-old woman without Karen haircuts, Josh, a male employee in the store, Sarah, a female employee in the store and friend of mine, good guy Brian for short, who's the store owner, and me. The store in which I ordered it has a regular line and a reserved line. The regular line, the usual. You get in after you took your stuff off the shelves. The reserved line is for people who ordered something online. This so they can get their stuff without having to wait in line. So the regular line was pretty long, around 7 people, but the reserved line was free. So having ordered and paid online, I set myself in the reserved line. This did not sit well with a Karen. She says, "Sir, you have to wait in the back of the line." "No, I don't. Karen cuts me off. "Yes, you do. It's against the law." "Oh no, here we go again." "Ma'am, I've ordered online," and she cuts me off again. "I don't care what you did or who you are, you have to wait in the back of the line like everyone else." She looks around for support, but no one was with her on this one. By this time, the Josh saw what was happening and tried to explain to Karen what was happening. Didn't really pay attention to the conversation, but she was off my back. So I give Sarah my order number. She goes to the back, comes back with my package, and I go home happy. I wish that happened, but this would not be a good one if it did though, so here is what happened. During the time that I gave my order and she got back with my package, the other employee was done explaining things to Karen. Don't know if he gave up or if Karen brushed him off in the end, but I get my package, turn around, and see Karen storming to me, takes my package out of my hands, I was a bit surprised about how strong she was, and throws it on the ground. The wine rack foot was bent and 4 of the 6 bottles broken. She says, "There, now you have to get a new one and stand in the back of the line like everyone else." I'm dumbfounded. Sarah says, "What the frick?" Takes phone. "Yeah, Brian, can you come to the counter? We have a situation." "Well, what are you waiting for? Go get your stuff and get in the back of the line." Starts to go back to her place. "What is wrong with you, woman? What is wrong with you, young man? You cannot cut in line. It's against the law." Meanwhile, Brian arrives. Brian separates both of us and gets our statements. Apparently, according to her, I cut in line and when she was stopping me, threw the wine rack to her. Then Brian goes away for a second to check the camera footage. No change in Karen's face though. Comes back. Following conversation goes, "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the store." "Why? I didn't break the law. He did," pointing at me. "Why should I leave? I haven't even paid for my stuff." "Please leave the store or the police will be called." "Call them. They'll say that I'm in the right." Brian sighs, takes out his cell phone and dials the police. A few moments pass by and the police come. Take statements from me, Karen and Brian. Karen went again with the throw the wine rack excuse. Police go to the back of the room for the camera footage. Come back and escort her in cuffs to the police car. The whole time she was yelling, "This is against the law. I was in my right. You can't do this. What about him?" One of the police comes over and says, "Technically what she did is assault. Do you want to press charges?" "Hell yes." "Then let me sign a paper with my statement and wish me a happy day further." The owner of the store replaced the wine rack with another one they still have in the store, but this one was with more expensive wine. Mine was €80 in total, this one was €95, but didn't charge me for the extra €15. Posted by user Wafer2016, titled "The Waitress Licked My Mother's Plate," or How My Inner Karen Was Released. Hello, happy people. This story takes place several years ago in a time filled with pre-pandemic innocence. People were free to eat at restaurants and actually sit in the dining room at the tables. A wild concept, I know, but there you go. My mother and I like to frequent a well-known Canadian restaurant chain known for their delicious rotisserie chicken and sweet potato fries. Do not forget the sweet potato fries. Oh my Frank, they are so good, but I digress. One night, just before Christmas, that year, we decided we wanted chicken for supper. So we bundled up in our many layers and headed on over to Miss Chalet. See what I did there? The hostess sat us next to the fireplace, Christmas music was playing softly, and we were filled with anticipation of the delicious meal to come. We decided to start with the baked garlic loaf, a drippy, buttery monstrosity that is delivered to the table under a mountain of diced onions and tomatoes. Having placed our orders, we sat back and chatted idly about stuff that I can't remember now. We had noticed our server seemed a bit snappish and dismissive. Okay, she was a tramp. Shoot, the Grinch was frickin' Barney the dinosaur compared to her. Maybe her shoes were too tight, or her apron was upside down, or maybe her heart was 2 sizes too small. Whatever the issue, her heart or her shoes, our server clearly disliked her job. After a while, our noses were greeted with the beautiful scent of garlicky goodness, and our delicious buttery loaf was placed before us, along with 2 empty plates for us to use. All was great until I looked at my mother's plate and saw it had a huge dirty smudge on it. Ew! I got the server's attention and pointed out the dirty plate, and this is where our wonderful, candy cane-scented evening went to hell in a handbasket. What I'm about to reveal is the absolute truth, with not one smidgen of exaggeration. The waitress took my mother's plate, licked her thumb, rubbed the dirt off with said spit-covered thumb, and then handed Mum her plate back and said, "Here you go." I stopped dead, looked at my poor mother who was looking equally stunned, and then turned and glared at the server. My mother would like a new plate now. Server huffed. Fine. Flounced over to the counter and got my mum a new plate. I was able to watch the entire time as it was within my view, so I made sure it remained spit-free. After she slapped the plate on the table and stalked away, I waved another server over and asked for the manager. Manager came over and I quietly explained what had just happened, and she was horrified. This is where the evening took another bizarre turn. The manager apologized, naturally, and offered us free pie, Miss Chalet's go-to response for unhappy customers, and told me to call head office, so they can be made aware of it too. I don't know what kind of drama was going on behind the scenes, but a manager asking me to call the big bosses for her. Weird, right? Next morning, I did as asked, and called the head office. I was greeted with complete silence for a few minutes after sharing my story of garlicky woe. Then the rep squeaked out, "That is not proper Miss Chalet serving standards." We were given a gift card for a free meal for both of us, and after an internal investigation, the entire staff was sent for retraining on proper ways to serve customers, which, oddly enough, includes not licking the plates. Yeah, dirty boy. Posted by user Title Lion, titled, "People using a loophole so they can vacation in other countries and follow no self-isolation protocols." So I saw on Facebook today a post about some Texans vacationing in BC. They told border security that they were headed to Alaska, but told restaurant staff that they were taking a detour to vacation in British Columbia. The post said that they were not wearing masks or PPE, no social distancing, the visitors have no plans to self-isolate, etc. Decided to fact-check, and while the article doesn't mention everything the post did, the rest of the story checks out. This is by Global News, titled "American Tourists in Alberta, RCMP, Investigating Possible Breaches of COVID-19 Restrictions." Seriously? It's a global pandemic, and you want to abuse the system to say you're headed home to Alaska, but just so you can go on vacation, at the risk of exposing others? How entitled do you have to be? Posted by user Just Anonym Wolf, titled, "She Took My Cat." This is both a rant and a request for help. My cat is not an indoors cat. She's an outside one. I tried to get her to stay inside, but she's a big one that loves climbing the huge trees and chasing feral cats. She did occasionally go inside, but after a time she would always wait by the door to go outside, and she always came back. She responds to her name, she responds to commands, and behaves in such a way, we sometimes call her the guard cat. It's been a week since I saw her. I was worried. I didn't know what to do until I was outside with some neighbors. They knew her very well, and they said it was strange that they haven't seen her around. And then an old lady walked by and said, "That black cat, you mean?" "Well, she's not black, she's spotted, and she's not that cat. She's cat." Replaced name because it's foreign and hard to spell. No, she's Little Puff. She's mine. I took her in. It's the best for her. Outside is not a place for a cat. I can't believe you taught her such bad manners. She only stays by the door. Who knows how you beat her that she's so afraid to stay inside? How dare you? How dare you? I was really angry at this point. I really care about cats, and I can't believe someone is forcing her inside. Another neighbor says, "What rotten soul do you have inside that you steal others' pets?" What a fuss you make about such a good thing. I adopted her, and you're lucky I didn't call animal control on you for animal abuse. Let cat out. She's not an inside cat. You're stressing her. You don't even know her. She'll bite your hand when you pet her wrong. That's the bad manners you gave to Little Puff. I'll teach her discipline, and you can't prove it's yours, can you? That's heartless. Give her cat back. You should be more wise at your age. I'm surrounded by idiots. And she ran inside. And she's right. It's not like I have a certificate for cat or anything. You usually don't have papers for pets here unless they're some breed. And you want to prove that. How do I get cat back? This sounds like a stage play. Update. First things first. I want to thank you all for the advice and shared your stories and so on. You've been a great help. Yesterday, I gathered all evidence I could that cat is mine, but most of my photos with her were with her alone, and I was a bit worried, until we struck the gold mine. My sister had a video, old one, of us hanging around with cat inside, with cat getting scratches from both of us. I went that evening to the old lady, but she didn't answer the door. It was dark outside, so I figured she was asleep. I talked to her neighbor instead, who said she'll be looking for cats. I didn't sleep much, but I met with my neighbors today, and a lot of people because there's nothing faster than the word of mouth in a village. We discussed what we should do, showed them the proof I had, and we decided the police wasn't going to help. There were multiple stories from them about police don't care, or even worse, giving them fines for wasting police time, and that is how it is for villagers. So instead, we decided to go together to the old lady with the proof I gathered. There were so many people. At first, old lady didn't answer the door, but we kept insisting and some people started yelling, "Give cat back! Give cat back! Give cat back!" She answered the door finally, and a shouting match started. I don't remember much of it, but I remember very well when one guy shouted above everyone else, "We're not leaving until you give Cat back!" A couple of shouting between both parts, and then it was over. Old lady went inside to release Cat as she was outnumbered by a lot and couldn't fight the whole village. If you're wondering how she kept Cat inside, she had Cat tied to a bed leg with a blue rope used for making hay bales. I wish I could say Cat ran faster than everything, but that's how she runs always. We left old lady's place and headed for mine. Some people left, and there were fewer by the time we reached my house, but in the walnut tree in her usual place, there was Cat. And after I thanked them and they said stuff like "You're welcome," they left me to attend to Cat. Her fur looked a bit rough. She came down from the tree when I called her. She didn't want to go inside, so I brought her food outside. I stayed with her until she finished eating, got her some water too, but she wasn't interested. I got close to her and scratched behind her ears, her favorite, and she had nothing against it. I looked her over. She didn't seem to have any injury or part that hurts. You could see against her fur where she was tied, but it didn't go into her skin, so that's good. After we hanged out a bit more, she climbed back in the tree to stay in her favorite place. I'll stay outside a little bit more. I talked to the village vet, and he doesn't have what he needs to get her microchipped. I thought so, therefore I'll be taking Cat to the city in the next days. I'm so thankful she's back, and for your and village people's help. You could say that I see what I want to see, but the male goose looked a bit happy too, as he doesn't need to fend off ferrets alone anymore. The guard cat is back. Posted by user Panacito de Azucar, titled, "Karen tries to use my mother to get free breakfast." This happened a few months ago. English is not my main language, so I apologize in advance for any mistakes that I may commit. Our cast are Karen, Karen's daughter, my mum, my dad, myself, the manager, and the waitress. So, me and my parents like to go out to have breakfast every Sunday, or that's what we did before this pandemic. And on that particular day, we were in one of our favorite restaurants, located in a mall, without suspecting what was going to happen. My mum ordered a club sandwich, and just before she took the first bite, she noticed something was out of place. Among the salad was a blue wire, the kind that is wrapped in plastic and used in bread bags to keep them closed. She quickly called out our waitress and explained the situation in a very discreet way. The waitress apologized, took the plate away, offered to bring her a free courtesy dish, and said she would talk to the manager. Thinking back, maybe the word free was what made Karen notice us. Right next to our table was a woman, Karen, and her daughter, Karen's daughter. When the waitress went away, Karen suddenly began to talk to us. She says, "That was awful. They should have been more careful. You could have chocked if you'd eaten that." Good thing I noticed before I started eating. Yes, maybe the cooking staff should have paid more attention while serving, but we weren't particularly angry about it. Mistakes happen, and Sunday morning is always a bussy time at that place. As my mother said, no one got hurt, so we just let it slide. Karen, on the other hand, proceeded to complain as if the wire had been in her plate instead of my mum's. She told us about this time someone she knew, friend, sister, I don't remember, found a nail in their plate at another restaurant and sued the place. I doubt it was true. I feel like she was trying to impress us. My parents were acting polite, just playing along, probably thinking Karen was just a concerned woman. I was silent for the most part, wishing she would just shut the hell up, while I noticed that Karen's daughter was silent as well, and that she had this expression of absolute misery in her face. Now that I think about it, it was a signal that Karen usually displayed that behavior quite often. The manager finally came, and because of the fuss Karen was making, thought she was the one who had the problem and apologized to her. The waitress corrected him, and then he talked to my mother. Manager says, "We're very sorry. Please feel free to order what you want, free of cost. I'd like to have another club sandwich, please." "No, you should order something more expensive. They committed a mistake. You deserve it." Karen's daughter quietly says, "Mum, please stop." Mum, getting angry at Karen, says, "A club sandwich is fine. Thanks." The waitress and the manager retired, and we thought that was all, but we were wrong. Karen still complained about what had happened, and in a not so quiet or discreet manner, basically said that my mum was stupid for not taking an opportunity when provided. She says, if it had been me, I would have sued this place for endangering my life. Karen's daughter, slightly raising her voice, says, "Mum, please just stop. That didn't even happen to you." Eventually, the waitress came back with my mum's sandwich, and at that point, my dad and I were angry and wanted to tell Karen to stop with her complaining and bad-mouthing. But my mum insisted we ignored her and tried to enjoy our breakfast the best we could. Karen and her daughter finished eating, and finally went away. We sighed with relief, thought that this was over and would have some peace. But no, again, we were wrong. The waiter says to my father shyly, "Excuse me, sir, could you come with me, please? Is there something wrong? We just need you to clear a misunderstanding. If this is because of my wife's incident, there's no problem from our part. We understand it was an accident. Do not worry." The waiter, looking extremely embarrassed, says, "Yes, is because of that. There's this woman with the cashier claiming to be the missus, my mum's sister, and requesting a null bill for herself on your behalf." My dad practically stormed out. My mum asked me to follow him, and so I did, just in time to see Karen yelling at the cashier, a young woman, and the manager trying to calm the situation. She says, "My sister and I have agreed to sue this place because your irresponsibility nearly killed her. You put a piece of wire in her plate, and you still want me to pay for my meal? That's enough. You've been disrespectful to my wife and the ladies, the waitress and the cashier. You are the worst kind of person and are in no way related to me. Stop lying and pay your bill already." My dad is the kind of person who rarely gets angry, and when he does, he gets extremely serious. So I was really surprised to see him like that. I want to clarify that he isn't a violent person, but I had never seen him yelling at someone like that before. I also noticed that Karen's daughter was crying right behind Karen, talking on her cell phone, and couldn't help to feel sorry for her because honestly, she did nothing wrong, and her only fault was having Karen as a mother, something that she couldn't have chosen. Looking back, I wish I had approached her to tell her that I knew none of this was her fault, and that I noticed she was trying to calm her mother, and we didn't blame her for anything. Meanwhile, another waiter arrived with the mall's security. They made sure Karen paid her bill, then escorted her outside, with her poor daughter following from afar. The manager apologized again, and because of the incident with Karen, cancelled our bill. Despite this, my parents and I agreed to leave half of our total bill as a tip because the staff was in no way responsible for our bad experience, and they suffered from it too. Still, I doubt we will return to the same restaurant out of embarrassment, or as we say in my country, que pincha peña. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one today. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love you to subscribe because I love your face and I love seeing you here every single day that you are here in this video. I don't know what else to say today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. I do have a second channel that's called Markee 2. Link should be up on the screen somewhere here if you don't have adblock installed. If you don't know where to find the channel, you can go to my main page. Just click on the Markee face and it should be on the right somewhere there, or on channels if you're on phone. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.